We're going to get into our panel questions straight away here. And this is the first one. I'm going to unmute Carol. There we go. And the question is, Carol, as an athlete, what are your expectations of a coach, particularly when you approach him or her for the first time?
Very interesting question, Peter, because some people may say that I don't look like I have a disability. So I'm pretty open and honest with any coach that I approach. The only thing that you can actually see with me is I have a walking stick. If I didn't have that, then you probably wouldn't recognize any kind of disability. So I think that coaches have to not prejudge, number one. Don't assume that they might know what I can or can't do, but to ask and to ask questions. I like a coach to be very open and honest, and I'm very open and honest in discussing my disability. So if in doubt, just ask, and I really look for somebody who I can actually talk to. It's interesting because my coach tried to get me to do a turn in a certain way when she first started coaching me, and I said, no, I can't do that. And she said, oh, you will be able to. It just takes practice. And so I got off my trike and I made her get on it, and I said, there you go ahead. And she went about 20 meters and almost stacked it and said, okay, I understand why you've said that. So it's really important to be able to, for me, to be able to talk open and honestly with a coach.
Excellent. Do you think, Carol, you mentioned at the start there, and I just want to ask you, do you think it makes much difference if the disability is more visible?
I think it does. I think people's perceptions of what people can and can't do is first from their sight of them. And I think the one thing that I learned in London, I thought I knew about disability. I mean, I was living in a wheelchair full-time back in 2001, 2002, so I understand that, but I thought I knew about disability until I went to London and saw people with horrendous disabilities that I thought would never be able to do anything, but very able in the sport that they had chosen. So I think our perception when we look at somebody forms an opinion right away before we actually talk to that person or find out what they can and can't do. So I think that's really important, not to have that preconceived idea of, oh, well, they won't be able to do that. And that actually happened to me when I was first looking for a club to learn to row, and I was a lot worse than I am now, and that was a problem. So I think, yeah, you just have to take the person at face value, be open and honest with them.
And that's what you're saying becomes even more important the more visible the disability is.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Carol. I think also the experience you had there with your coach actually having a go, and the same kind of way, you can never ever simulate disability, but you can get a feel about what's it like to compete, say, on a trike or to use a trike.
Oh, definitely. Like riding a trike, you have to get rid of every idea of what it's like to ride two wheels, which, you know, years ago I used to be able to do. But because my MS affects my balance, I fall over on two wheels. So the three wheels keeps me upright. But that being said, it's also about counterbalancing on camber, because you never ride upright unless the road is dead flat, and you don't get many roads around Melbourne or anywhere else that are dead flat unless you're right in the middle of them with the traffic. So it was really important that the coach actually get on my trike to see that, oh, hey, yeah, you don't lean to turn, you can't ride upright, you can't turn corners the way a normal two-wheel bike would. So that is important.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. We'll come back to you in just a tick. But now I want to flick with a similar question to Tom. And Tom, you may be saying the same things here, so maybe quite quick. But Tom, as a coach, what are your expectations of an athlete, particularly when you approach him or her for the first time?
Well, John, this is something I've actually been banging on about for a long, long time, and only recently I gave a demonstration of a group of coaches in how I approach the problem, and that is, if I was to stand Peter Downs up and I got Catherine Duff up, who I've never seen, and I said, and I asked someone, right, how would you coach Peter Downs? What would you do? Well, Peter Downs is a middle-aged guy, and he looks in pretty good nick, and yeah, perhaps I'd do this. Well, what about Catherine? Okay, well, sorry, Catherine, but I don't know you, but I guess we'd have to do some tests to find out how fit you are and how well you ride a bike, because I know Peter can ride a bike, etc. Now, the point of all this is that immediately you're treating each individual as a different person, and they have different capacities which you're not sure of. So to me, an athlete or a person with a disability is just the same as that example, in that you treat all athletes and all people as individuals, at least in the first instance, to get the ball rolling, because you don't know what they need, you don't know what you have to do, so you just have to go through those normal procedures that you've been trained as a coach to assess what you need to do. And it's not all that daunting, you know, once you start to break it down in that way.
Yeah, and you're kind of saying, I thought you would say that similar things to Carol is treating individuals. Again, I'll ask you the same thing though. How you see a person can make a difference in your perception about what they're capable of doing. You know, I'm an elite cyclist, as you point out, and Catherine's obviously clearly not. But you know, the visual you get of someone, particularly with a disability, can affect your perception. Have you got any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess experience over many, many years has now taught me that it's a big mistake to make assumptions. And, you know, the very first time you meet a person with a disability, it's not about a rush to get them on a bike. It's about, you know, establishing things. Can they ride a bike, for instance? You know, do they have transport? Are they able to, what sort of support network do they have around them? And getting that real background for what they can achieve around their cycling and what support they've got to enable that goes a long way. And I think, you know, in establishing the rapport with a new person, that's something that you'll keep in your memory bank and serves you for many years to come, because you know, it's just getting to know the person on a level other than just riding the bike.
Excellent, excellent. There goes the words of experience. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. We'll be coming back to you in just a tick.